Hey guys, Leon here. Today we're at the Offroad Animal Engineering Workshop with the 2024 Toyota Land Cruiser 70 Series. We've already fitted our Toro bull bar onto our car. Today we're going to show you how to install the Predator bar onto this beast. So let's get started. Alright, first things first, you just want to unpack everything you've got in the box and just double check everything's there. You can download our actual fitting instructions off the website and match up all the items with what's listed in the fitting instructions. Alright, after you've made sure you've got everything in the kit, first step is going to be to remove the factory bumper. Step one will be to remove the number plate. Alright, we're on the outer end of the bumper. Underneath the flare, there's a 10mm hex nut that you need to remove. Just get under there, and you can just spin that off. So do this on both sides. Alright, moving on to the front of the car, there are 5 plastic clips running along the top. We've got one hidden underneath there. There's 3 through the middle of the grille, and then another one on the other end. So we're just going to reach in here, get a flathead screwdriver or a little trim tool, insert it under the notch, pry it up, and then move my hand out of the way. And you can pull it outwards.
Give it a go.
Okay, moving underneath the vehicle, there's going to be 4 10mm hex bolts along the bottom. So we're on the left hand side and there's 2 under here, so we're just going to remove those. Alright, we're now onto the right hand side of the car. Inside the wheel well, there's a loom connector behind this cover. So we're going to pop off just the one clip with the screwdriver, pull that off, and then pull the plastic cover off, and now you can see the plug. And we're just going to unplug that.
Here you go.
Just quickly mention on that last step with the loom, if you have a workmate that doesn't have fog lights, chances are you don't need to do that. But yeah, the bumper is now free, so we're going to go start remove it. The 10mm nut that we removed at the start, we need to lift up the stud on the inside of the bumper and just loosen it. And then we should be good to just pull backwards and remove the bumper, so we can set that aside. Alright, now that plastic bumper's off, we're going to start removing this top beam. There's 4 14mm hex bolts on top, so we're just going to start removing those. Now this back on here, it's a bit tricky to get to. You're going to have to use a spanner, and you're most likely going to have to flex the panel work or just remove it entirely to get the bolt out. Alright, we're back onto the side of the car. This is the left hand side under the wheel. There's a 12mm nut that you have to remove. Okay, back on top again, there's 2 12mm hex bolts there and there that you have to remove. And again, there's one here underneath that you're going to have to get to with a spanner. Alright, that top section is now fully loose, so we're just going to lift and remove that. And set that aside, or you can throw it away. Alright, we're on top of the chassis rails now. There's 2 17mm hex bolts on top that need to be removed. We're going to start with the rear one. So get in there with the socket and extension on there. And from underneath, you're going to loosen off this nut, also 17mm. Going to remove that second top bolt, like so. And then now you can pull the bolt out, this long one, and pull this whole can off. Now on single cabs, the chassis is slightly different, it's a bit taller. And for the fitment of this bull bar, you're going to want to retain this long 17mm hex bolt. On dual cabs, wagons, troopies, we don't need this. Alright, we're on the bottom of the right hand side of the car now, so we're going to have to, for cars with fog lights, you're going to have to unclip this loom. It's easiest to get a screwdriver into the tab there, into the clip, and then push it outwards to release it. Like so. So do that for, there's 3 clips on this side. All right, balloon-free, set that off to the side. And then we're going to remove just the two inside 14mm hex bolts here. So do that on both sides. Alright, this whole bumper support section should now be loose, so you should be able to just pull that backwards and off the car, and you can chuck this away. Alright, we now need to remove the skid plate. This one's an aftermarket one, obviously, but this is what the factory one looks like. There's going to be four 12mm hex bolts all the way around, so one here, two on the front, and there's one off the back that you can't see in the camera. So we'll just remove those. There we go. Alright, we now need to remove that factory tie down point. There's three 14mm hex bolts. The back one's the trickiest one to get to, and it's easiest with a breaker bar. You flex this little radiator plastic trim out of the way, get in there and start undoing it there. I'll leave that there for now. And then the other two bolts you can just remove with a gun. Alright, we've got that last bolt pretty much loose now. So it takes a bit of time and a bit fiddly, but now we can remove that and you can get your tow hook out of the way. Alright, now we're going to be using most of these weld nuts inside the chassis, both on this side and on the outside. They're fine pitch threads, so they're quite easy to cross thread. So it's quite a good idea just to run a tap or something through these threads just to clean them up and make sure your bolt's going to run freely inside. Alright, we're now going to start installing the mounts onto the chassis. This is the mount for the dual cabs, the wagons and the troopies. The single cab one is a bit taller. The process is largely the same, but for single cabs, best to look at our website instructions. Alright, so we're just going to fit this on. This back flange here just sits on the inside there as well and just slides over on top of the chassis rail. And then we're just going to begin with putting one M12 by 125 bolt through the top. And we'll just put a flange nut on the bottom. Just keep it finger tight for now. Alright, we're now on the outside of the car and we're going to start installing the spacer plate and the tow point plate. These two stack together and just fit over the top of the mount. And we're going to use our M12 by 40 fine pitch, so 1.25mm pitch bolts just into the chassis up top there. So just run these in finger tight for now. Okay, now the bottom here, you've got two holes here. They're going to take M10 by 40 1.5 pitch, so standard pitch. So I'll just go through there and you'll pop a flange nut on the back of both those two. Again, just leave it finger tight for now. And then lastly back here, it's going to be an M12 by 40 bolt and a flange nut. I'll just stand back. Okay, back onto the inside of the mount again. You're going to take two M10 by 30 fine pitch bolts through those two holes. And for back here, it's going to be this big spacer block. You're going to insert it in between the mount and the chassis, and you're going to insert an M10 by 50 fine pitch bolt into the weld nut. Just keep everything loose and finger tight for now. We'll thread those in a bit more later, but for now, we're just going to go over to the other side of the car and do the same thing, just mirrored. Alright, so that's both two mounts on here now. All the bolts are just finger tight. And we want that way so there's a bit of wiggle room because the bull bar is going to slide in between here. So if they're fully tight, it might be too tight for the bar to go on. So that's that done for now. We're just going to go off and grab our bumper and start stripping it and transferring its stuff onto the bar. Okay, we're on fog light equipped cars, you're going to want to remove the fog light from the factory bumper because we're going to relocate them onto the bar. So this is on the inside on the right hand side. You're going to want to press down on these tabs, 3 tabs around there, and release this cover. Pull it off to the side and you can see the fog light. We'll go unplug that like so, and then you can unbolt the fog light just with a Phillips head screwdriver. Now while you're doing this, make sure you remember which side's which. Toyota should have a little R or L imprinted on the fog light, and remember which way's up. It's only 3 screws, and then you should be able to pop that off. So put that on the side somewhere safe. Just remember which side's which way goes up.
Now go.
Once you have both fog lights off, you want to strip the loom from inside the bumper. So you can either cut the clips off, or I'm just going to release them and clip them. So you just work your way around along the bumper and just release all these clips. Just make sure you remember which side the loom's which side, so which end. So the main plug to the bumper should be on the right hand side. We're going to bolt our fog lights onto the supply brackets. Now there's 2 of them. The way to tell your left and your right, you've got this arrow on top. So that should be pointing forwards, like the forward direction of the car. You can see this will be the right hand side one because the wing of the bar angles backwards. So we'll take our right hand fog light, which will say R on it, and that will just fit onto the back of the bracket. I'll take 4 M6 by 16 black button heads and a flange nut, 4 flange nuts, and you just fit the fog light on. And do these up with a 4mm Allen key. So yeah, we'll just do that for both fog lights. Yeah, so just repeat that. Okay, now your fog light's bolted onto the bracket, it's time to bolt it onto the car. So again, we're on the right hand side of the car, and there's 3 threaded holes in the bar. It's going to go on the 2 outer ones. So you pop the bracket on there. Again, take your M6 by 16 black button head and a washer, and bolt your bracket in. And just tighten it with your 4mm Allen key. If you don't want to run fog lights, or if you have a workmate that didn't come with fog lights, we also supply this universal bracket. It's got several mounting slots and holes in here that you can use to bolt different lights on. So here's an example where we've got an 8-inch light bar in there. You can also try cube lights, stuff like that. And again, this bolts onto the back of the bar the same way as the fog light bracket, just use any of these slots provided. So just put it in there wherever you want it. Put 2 or 3 bolts, also supplied in the kit. There you go. Now, every off-road animal bull bar comes with space in the bar for an integrated light bar. For this bar, it fits up to a 32-inch single row light bar. This is our off-road animal brand one, but it'll also fit quite a few general aftermarket light bars. Now, to install it, you sort of have to twist it in because the space is a bit tight. So go in like so. And there's going to be slots built into the bottom of the bar down there for you to bolt up your light bar. Alright, now we're going to route the loom into the bar. So remember which side's which. The connector back to the vehicle should be on the right hand side. We'll just start off in the middle section and just feed the loom through like so. It's all the way through the inside of the bar. And we can connect our fog light up now as well. Like so. So that's that side. Go back over to the left hand side, do the same thing, right in between. And plug her in. Now you can do some cable management, just grab some cable ties and just tie it. You can do it to all of these members inside the bar, just to keep things neat and tidy. And there you go. Now for Predator bars, if you've chosen an optional top hoop, so here we have our stealth hoop for the 70 series, we also have a round hoop. This is the best time to put it on the car. There's two, for the top hoops, there's just two holes on the side there, so the top hoop will sit up on there. We're not installing this one today, so I'll just put that off to the side. If you're fitting driving lights, it's also the best time to do it now. These bars only fit 2 driving lights. There's a Toyota safety radar in the middle here that you need to keep clear of. So the lights will only fit through the provided slots around here. We've sized them to fit our Off-Road Animal 9-inch arse kickers, 7-inch butt kickers. They'll fit steady Type X Pros, Type X Evos, pretty much every light you can find. Just want to explain the driving light hole pattern a bit more in detail. The Toyota radar's in the middle here. It has a field of view going outwards like that, so you don't want your light towards the middle too much because you'll block your radar. So with your typical 9-inch driving light such as this one, you're going to be wanting to use the center slot and this one at the front to bolt your light up. So this will work with our Off-Road Animal 9-inch light, and it will work for something like a steady Type X Pro. Now if you have something like a steady Type X Evo, the bracket's a bit different, it's a bit deeper. You're going to be wanting to use these 2 holes. So it'll fit a bit further back and still stay clear of your radar field of view. And then lastly, for something like the Off-Road Animal 7-inch light, something a bit smaller, you're going to be wanting to use these 2 holes. If you're running the 7-inch lights with that optional round hoop, you're going to have to bolt it here. You can't use any other ones, or else the round hoop tube is going to block it. And if you want full details, we'll have a picture up on the fitting instructions available on the website. Alright, once you've finished with all your lighting, bolting lights on, then it's time to put the pan brace into the back of the bar. So there's 4 bolts, 2 on top with a flange nut, M6x16, black again, and then 2 on the bottom. So just put that on now. Like so, tighten the bolts up. There's 2 of them, so one on the right, one on the left. Make sure you got both of them done up. And then we're pretty much ready to install this onto the car. Okay, we're now ready to put this bar onto the car. You can either use a lifting trolley like we have here, or if you've got a friend, get 2 people and lift it on. On the inside of the bar, the 2 uprights, they slide in between these 2 red impact assembly mats. So we're just going to line that up now. Just ease it on. And get it on. We'll fine tune the adjustment afterwards, but once it's sliding on, I'm going to start by inserting bolts into the side to attach the bar to the car. Okay, so if your bar's lined up properly, you should be able to see there's slots inside that are lining up the slots on the outside. There's 4 bolts per side, the M12x30. Now, on each side, 3 of the bolts will take an M12 flange nut, and 1 of them you're going to use an extra washer and an M12 nylock nut, just to lock it in better. So we're just going to insert the bolts now. You're just going to have to reach on the other side to get access to the nut. Now I'm going to use the nylock on this 3rd one here. So washer and the nylock nut on the outside. Now you probably can't see it in this camera shot, but there's a 4th hole that's going to be below the main winch cradle, and you can get to it from the outside of the bar. So, alright, now you got 4 done, bolts through on both sides. Just leave them finger tight for now, and we'll go adjust the bar, get that perfect, and then tighten everything up at the very end. Alright, once your bar's attached to the mounts, we'll then tighten the mounts to the chassis. So I recommend starting on the bolts that are attaching directly to the chassis rail, then you can work on the outside and tighten all the bolts on the toe points and stuff. So we'll just tighten these here for now. And yeah, work your way around, get everything else tight, and then we'll move on. Alright, now we're going to try to align the bar to the car. The ground here isn't quite flat, so you can see it's a bit lopsided right now. But because all the bolts holding the bar to the mount are loose, you can wiggle it around. So you just want to wiggle it. It's easier when you have two people on both sides doing it at the same time. But what you're aiming for is for the back of the bar to be in line with the wheel flow, and you want about 15-20 mil of vertical gap out here, and about 15-20 mil gap at the front to the grille. So you just keep wiggling around however you want until you get it perfectly aligned the way you want, and then we move on to tightening the bolts on the front. We'll go tighten that. So yeah, do that for both sides, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, don't forget, once the bar's on, to reconnect your fog light loom if you've got that equipped. So plug that in, and we can tuck it out and cable tie it out of the way. Alright, so one of the beautiful things about the Offroad Animal bull bars is that you can put the winch in after the bar's on the car, which is what we're going to do now. As you can see, we've got a nice big opening here, that you can just lift your winch right on in. So this makes it really easy if you want to service it. All you have to do is pop off one or two panels, and you can get straight to your winch. Most other bars, you're going to have to take the whole thing off just to get to your winch. Alright, once your winch is resting inside the bar, get the bolts from the kit supplied with the winch and just insert them and tighten the winch onto the bar from the bottom, like so. Alright, if you're fitting a winch, you're also going to want to fit the winch fair lead onto our center mesh section. So it just goes through the opening provided on the front, and just again use the fastener supplied with the winch to tighten it on. Okay, next we have the number plate flip. So that goes there and allows you to flip it up and down so you can get access to your winch. Now there's a special bolt holder that you have to use. So we've got an M8x25 black button head, a black washer. That then goes through the first hole in the number plate flip. Next you're going to insert this nylon washer that goes in between. This allows it to swivel freely without friction. So then that's going to go through the hole in the side. Now when we get onto the inside, you're going to chuck a normal M8 washer and then nylock nut. So do that on both sides. Then you're just going to use your 5mm Allen key and your 13mm spanner to tighten them up. You don't want it too tight such that it takes too much force to flip open, but you don't want it so loose that it just freely wobbles around. So I'll show you that afterwards. Okay, so with your number plate flip, you don't want it too loose or too tight. So obviously this is too loose. It just falls under its own weight. So we'll just tighten it a bit more. I'll demonstrate what happens if it's too tight. Alright, so if you do it too tight, it's barely going to move and you're going to start bending the actual number plate flip as well. This one's on the upper limit of what's acceptable. I'll probably back it off just a tiny bit more. But you don't want it so tight that you can't move it at all, and you're going to bend the bracket. So just a tab, just a little bit, and there we go. Much better. Alright, now we're at the front of the car with the mesh fair lead in the front of the bar. These two holes on top, they line up with the two nuts inside the bar. And then on the bottom, these two holes, they go and line up with the two nuts also embedded in the bar. So I'll go present this up. This fits nicely in there, and I'll grab an M8x20 hex with a big M8 washer. You put it in first. So with the top two bolts, you're going to have to reach around from the inside to do them up. I'm just going in with one arm, reaching all the way up in there. There we go. So afterwards you grab your Allen key and then go all the way from the inside to tighten it up. Alright, we're on the home stretch now. One of the most important things is to attach your compliance label somewhere on the bar. So we like to put it on the inside of the bash plate. That way if the authorities want to have a quick look, you can just take the bash plate off and they can see it. So it's just a sticker. So we'll peel the backing off and then we'll fix it. And press firmly on the inside of our bash plate. And now that's ready to go onto the car. So we've got two rear holes there and there. They line up with the red tabs on the mounts on the back of the bar. And then your front four holes, they go through into the bar up there. So let's bring that off. And just fit the bolts in. And I should say these are M8 by 25 black bun heads, and these are going to be M10 bun heads with a flange nut for the rear. So you can put that in from down below. Alright, lucky last step is to fit your number plate back on. So we've got lots of holes provided depending on what type of number plate you have, but we provide again M6 by 16 black button heads. And yeah, just lift up the number plate flip and bolt your number plate on. So there we have it. We've got the Predator bar installed on our 2024 Land Cruiser. Hopefully this video will help you with your own install. The fitment procedure for the Toro bar is 95% the same, so you'll have no trouble watching this video as well. For more information on the bar, where to get it fitted, check the link in our description or head to offroadanimal.com.au.